Hello everybody and welcome back to a new mod showcase. Today we've got the SCM Marienburg mod, which is a pretty naughty mod. It adds I think 4 or 5 Marienburg lords, as well as an additional secret naughty one, which is part of a different faction, part of a different race. We'll obviously cover him 100%. One thing I will point out is some of these lords are locked behind having Immortal Empires Expanded included, so please make sure that if you obviously want to play as those lords, you've got that included. And one of the lords does require the Warriors of Chaos DLC, which is a good DLC. Go get it if you haven't already. It will make sense when I show him, so just, you know, kind of getting those out of the way just so we're all aware. With that being said, if you do enjoy the mod as ever is in the description below. Please do leave me a like if you do enjoy the video and subscribe if you haven't already. With that being said, let's get straight into the video. Okay, so here we go with the first faction. As I mentioned in the intro, I will try my best to show you the start positions and the mechanics of each of the factions we show off today, as well as obviously going through and showing you the units each faction introduces. This is the main boy we'll obviously cover first, so any units basically he's got access to we'll cover, and then when we go to the other factions after him, any additional units they introduce will cover them in particular instead of obviously covering our entire units again. So this being the main boy will have access to more units I would assume than the rest, but yeah, we'll do this one by one. I'm also going to try my best not to look too much over to the left here, because there's a certain somebody over here and a certain lady here who's actually one of the factions included in this mod, which isn't part of the Marienburg faction race, so yeah, kind of cool. So starting over here, I do apologise for any butchering, and I'll try my best to avoid any mispronunciations as I go. We've got Jaan van de Kuypers. Yeah, I mean, I'm already starting great. Starting obviously in Marienburg. Just a real quick interruption there. One thing I will probably forget if I don't mention it now, he starts it off with really bad relations with Wasteland, so obviously make sure to be aware of that. If you get declared war on by Wasteland quite early on, don't be surprised, basically. Don't let that catch you off guard. On top of that, there is plenty of other factions around you which do not like you, and you also start off with a couple of trespassers against other neutral factions, like for example Midland over here and Bretonia over here. So yeah, that's not too great. Going back over to this boy, so he does have some level of imperial authority, however he doesn't actually have access to elector count units or state count units. What he does have access to is instead, if we go in here, he does have some unique units to him, obviously in relation to the imperial authority and stuff like that. So for example, here's got black caps, which are a golden daggers unit, basically golden dagger unit. He's got defenders of the capital, which is a great swords unit. I believe on this tree he's also got some more. Is it that one, or is it in, where is it? Here. For example, the Knights Mariner and stuff like that. All these units, of course, we will have a look at, so do not worry. He does start with a legendary hero as well called Oddval here, which is a harbour master, which looks really cool. And then he does also have access to a high priest of a Manann, which is a nice spellcaster with obviously a new law of magic. In terms of campaign mechanics, as you can see down here, he's got 3 pretty cool icons down here, which is very diverse for what he can do. So he's got the golden route here, which allows him to do convoys, but instead of like normal convoys, it's basically sea routes, which is cool. He does have access to a starting off convoy here, which is like an ogre ally, but you can of course recruit others. Here we've got Egmond, for example, who is a dwarven ally, which has access to more dwarven units. As you can see here, there's actually some unique dwarven boys here, but I'll cover them with one of the additional lords a little bit later down the line because they are a little bit more in tune with the dwarven boys. Moving on to the other mechanic, he's got emergent houses. Around the map will be other rival houses, which you have to basically in lore go down and shut down. You don't actually go and fight many people, you just have to do certain unlock requirements to actually unlock them and shut them down. So for example, here you have to be at war with Scaling, here you have to be with a trade agreement with Corone. Here you just have to move character to character and stuff like that. When you actually do accomplish that, you will complete one of said challenges here. Once completed them, you will unlock different ancillaries, basically with the main people from those factions being shut down. Sorry, rival houses being shut down. What you get are basically massive buffs to your trade, which being Marienburg is going to be your main thing, obviously based around trade and producing resources and stuff like that. Finally, technology tree, just real quick, is pretty much the exact same. Nothing's really changed in the technology tree. You are just an Empire faction, so don't expect too much there. He has access to rights, but it's not rights as you would normally see. So yeah, rights panel looks exactly the same, but you actually have to unlock them by doing different things in order to actually utilize them to their full potential. So for example here, we have to own at least 2 coastal settlements before this one can be used. And for example here, we have to reach a rank 8 with your faction leader as well. So with that being said, that is pretty much all we've got to show outside of the campaign, sorry, inside the campaign mechanics. Let's head on now into the skirmish battle and show what kind of units this boy has to offer. Spoiler alert, it's a lot, but this is going to be the main showcase of units, and then we'll obviously cover what the other lords add here and there as they, as we get to them. So let's jump in. Okay, so here we go. We've got the mighty Marienburg line here of units we've got to show off. I didn't actually realise how many of the units in this mod pack is actually just already basically devoted to the main Marienburg boy, Jaan, or Jaan. So the pure meat and bones of this mod pack will be included in this little showcase here, but there is still other units to show off. But it'll just basically mean that the other lords will be very quick to showcase, whereas this one is obviously going to be quite hefty. So starting off with the lord down here, we've got Jaan, or Jaan. His main takeaway point there is he's frail and old, so basically don't use him. You can see by his stats they are abysmal. He does have some passive abilities like hexes and stuff like that, which give it buffs and debuffs depending on if for example this one, if they have leadership below 50% and they're a lord or hero, they get debuffs. Any allies within range get buffs there, which isn't too bad. Avanlander Corn, sure. As long as the entity size is small, it gets those charge bonuses, speed bonuses, which is pretty cool. It does also have access to 3 active abilities, as you can see here. Vandermacht's Hat, which gives perfect vigor, as well as physical resistance and spell resistance for 30 seconds, which isn't too bad. Jaan's Lucky Coin, which gives speed, melee defense, and stalk for 25 seconds. And then 3 uses of this, Jaan's Bribe, which can only be used on a lord or hero, which gives minus 20 speed, minus 10 leadership, and minus 20 attack. But all around, keep this boy away from the battlefield because he does not want to be fighting. Those stats are abysmal. Moving on to your other lord choice you actually get by playing as Jaan. We've got the High Priest of Manann. So here you can see he's got battle prayers, he's armoured, and he also has the aquatic trait, which is actually quite nice. Looking at his stats, not too bad for a lord, and more like I wouldn't say he's meant to be heavily influenced in melee, but yeah, not too bad. He has magical attacks on his melee, yeah, look at that, 29 compared to his defense. He's definitely more of a stonky boy, and he does also have a bonus for his infantry there. Have a look at his abilities. He does have plenty of different abilities, quite nice ones, like for example there, the damage resistance just stat around him, good, really good. Damage resistance affects all allies in range, yeah, good. Plus melee attack. And these are all bound spells, like active abilities, so like they're going to be on cooldown, so you're going to be able to use them over and over again. And then there, Manann's Fury, Bombardments, again I was going to say spell, but it's actually an ability. So yeah, quite nice. He doesn't have any actual magic, he just kind of keeps the battle going with active abilities which are on cooldown, which is really good. This boy I thought I'd include, he's a merchant lord. This is what is going to be replacing your caravan convoy lords. So yeah, that is all he is. You're not going to be really seeing too much of him in battle, so we won't cover in too great detail. But yeah, he's just a caravan lord. Moving on to the hero, we've only got one hero. I do know for a fact there are multiple different legendary heroes in this mod pack. We will cover them at a greater date, in future, down the future of this video. Jesus Christ, that was a mouthful to say. What I will showcase with each lord is just the hero they start with, and then we'll kind of do a compilation at the end of what's missing. So yeah, here's Oddval. He's a harbour master, quite a cool looking boy. He's armour piercing and is a decent melee combatant. Have a look at his stats there. Yeah, alright, good stats. And does have armour piercing on his missile strength and a missile strength of 600. Range 180, yeah, that's not too bad either. He has plenty of active abilities as well, which is really cool. He's got, for example, here, which gives he can't move, but basically stronger missile damage and also more resistant to missiles, which is really good. This one affects all allies in range, good leadership, good resistance, damage resistance. Another one, more range, more base explosive damage, so yeah, that's really good. Restock, we love a restock companion, or hero should I say. And then also like a breath attack, Oddval's Row. Yeah, sure. Nice little breath. Obviously being more of a ranged, he's decent in melee, but being more of a ranged hero, obviously having something like that to use up close is really nice. With that being said, that is all we've got to offer for this faction, but don't forget there is plenty more. What I will quickly show you is Marienburg do have access to other normal Empire units, just obviously reskinned. So for example, we've got the Halberdiers, and slightly different names, but they are just Halberdiers. Got Halberdiers here, again if you'd like to see the stats, pause, but I would assume it's going to be very similar to what the base Empire version is. Crossbowmen, just looking a little bit more poncy and foncy. Swordsman, again, nice little Marienburg sigil on the shields and stuff like that, but that moustache, wowie. But yeah, categorically they are the same. Over here we've got the Sartosa boys. Again, feel free to take a pause. We've got the Free Company at the front here, as well as the Sartosa militia at the back here. Again, already base game, but do have access to them. And then moving on to the actual more official units. These, okay, I'll cover these, but these are a bit of a funny one. So, okay, starting off with the Burger Militia. These boys are your lowest of the low. That guy actually looks quite well done, to be fair, to be stuck with these boys. Yeah, he actually looks like he could be the one paying them all. Does anyone else look like that? Yeah, I guess some of them. So yeah, Burger Militia, there are two different variants of Burger Militia. You've got your Ruffians over here, and then you also have the Burger Archers, slightly dressed. I say slightly dressed, much betterly dressed than the other boys. So yeah, these are tier 1 120 entity boys, so these are purely expendable units, and that is pretty much what they've got to offer. They don't have much in the line of good stats, but they do offer bonus to large, and they are expendable as well. So yeah, nice early game unit, get them in there, anti-large, get them killed, don't really matter. Burger Archers are the exact same to other like tier 1 units, like for example Bretonia's tier 1 archer units. They are just horrendous. They're weak against armour. I'd like to say they're probably not too accurate. They're tier 1 with an entity size of 90. Stats, pretty abysmal. Yeah, just upgrade them as quickly as we can. Now here we've got the Migrated Dwarves. The Migrated Dwarves look absolutely fantastic. I love them. I love the shields as well. So these are going to be more heavily themed with another lord we will cover. I will throw them in and show them what they look like for his faction. But yeah, categorically there's not they are loud. Categorically there's not a whole too much which change here. So you've got Migrated Dwarves, armoured and shielded, and have a charge defense against large foes. So yeah, nothing really to write home about there. They do have obviously spell resistance being dwarves, but yeah, it's just a nice variation to obviously get included, like the Empire swordsman up there, a bit of a reskin, and you've got some dwarves fighting for you here. And then at the back here, we've just got the exact same, the Migrated Quarrelers. God, they're so loud. The exact same thing here. Decent melee combatants and piercing melee, and armored as well. So yeah, not too bad. Moving on to more new units for the Marienburg faction, we've got the Golden Daggers. So these boys are tier 1 as well. I don't even know what they've got. I can't remember what this is called. Someone might be able to correct me in the comments. I do know what it is. It's like a military pike or something like that. I don't know. It's something like that. No, it's not a pike. It's something else. Oh, I can't for the life of me remember. Military something. So these are anti-infantry, which is really nice, and they also have armour piercing. It doesn't say that out there, but they are also armour piercing, which is really good. And they have a charge defense against large foes as well, which is, yeah, a nice early game unit. Obviously, a lot better than the militia burgers over there, but yeah, nice. Golden Daggers, or basically Golden Daggers, really cool. Here we've got the Merchant Guild Sentinels. This helmet is hilarious for what he's wearing. But sure, these are dual sword infantry. These are tier 2 with an entity count of 100. Stats, alright. They can also hide in the forest. They are anti-infantry and aquatic. Nothing really to write home about, but a good unit early game, tier 2 anti-infantry to obviously get in there and do damage. But just to take into account, they don't have shields or anything, so they could die pretty quickly. Moving on down the line, we've got these River Wardens. Now, they have a gun in a fish skin there, which is hilarious. That is so funny. Apart from the fish gun, they look really cool. Obviously, they do have a shield on them, but it's only on their back. Yeah, how funny. If I turn fire at will off, will they go into shields now? I'd like to think they might use the shields, but yeah, how funny. Close quarter infantry. So having a look at them, they are shielded, anti-large, vanguard deployment, which is going to be nice, obviously getting up against the enemy pretty quickly, and a charge defense against large foes as well. Having a look at the tier and stats, then they are tier 2 with an entity count of 120, so quite a lot of them, and stats not too bad. Like I say, bonus is large on the weapons there, and shielded for their armour. But yeah, an interesting tier 2 boys with the fish guns for sure. Moving on to another tier 2 unit, these are the Cloveniers. They are very early game range units, guns, which is good for the AP with missiles, but the missile strength is actually quite abysmal, so yeah, again, upgrade them as quickly as you can. The only benefit these boys have is that exact thing, piercing missiles. They are a tier 2 unit with an entity count of 90, so the sooner we can get rid of these, the better, but you know, they'll do early game AP, which is nice. Moving on, even further down the hill, we've got the ship's crew gunners. Yeah, these boys are a little bit more naughty, but only just a little bit better than what the Cloveniers are. So having a look at the stats then, so the only thing they've actually got to offer in terms of, like, up here is that they are armour piercing as well. Only 1 strength more than what they were, which is interesting. But they do look a lot better. They also come with Vanguard deployment, which it actually doesn't say up there, but if they do have Vanguard deployment, they have the Rowdy ability, which you can also unlock for some more with Jaan himself. Rowdy ability, which gives more leadership and perfect vigor, which is actually really good as long as the leadership is higher than wavering. So it's going to make sure that you're obviously in that category of higher than wavering with the +4 leadership, and the perfect vigor is really nice as well. And then they also got the Black Powder Aplenty passive ability there, which as long as their ammunition is above 80, so you know, early game shooting and stuff like that, they're going to do more explosive damage, base explosive damage, sorry, armor piercing explosive damage, base explosive damage, armor piercing missile damage, and base missile damage. So basically, for the first 20% of ammo, they're going to be slapping chops. So yeah, a really nice addition there actually. I'd like to think you probably get the ship's crew more often than the Cloveniers, just out of principle for their abilities down there. Looking really nice. Moving on, you've got Marienburg Privateers. Now these boys are obviously very similar to, I believe, these ones. Yeah, the Merchant Guild Sentinels, but these are more of your infantry choices, your melee choices, whereas these boys do have a ranged option. So these are your Marienburg Privateers. They are tier 2 with an entity count of 120. They're a hybrid unit because obviously they focus somewhat on melee, but we do also have a gun. Decent melee combatant, like I just said, and aquatic as well to go along with that. They can fire while moving, which is a nice little tidbit for them to do as well. Again, a bit more of a versatile unit than what you've seen so far. Having pistols, so obviously they don't have the AP, but they do have the fire while moving, which is really nice. They do also have the Black Powder Aplenty, so again, similar to the boys before them, will be doing more damage within the first 20% of the ammo they are shooting, which, yeah, lovely jubbly. Moving down the line, we're going back to some more melee boys before we go into cavalry units. So here we've got, I'm not even going to bother, I'm not, just great swords, Marienburg great swords. I will get banned for saying something like a slur in a native language somewhere if I try and pronounce that word, so I'm just not, basically. So these are great swords, Marienburg great swords. They're going to be bringing pretty much exactly what you'd expect from a great sword unit. They're actually early game great swords, so they're only tier 2 with an entity count of 120, so they're not going to be performing as well as the Empire great swords, but you know, great swords nevertheless. Armoured, armour piercing, and anti-infantry stats looking pretty good there, again with the bonuses there to the weapon strength. So yeah, really good. Moving on now then to the cavalry, we've got the riders with a J, because we're being a bit fancy here, we're Marienburg, remember. So these boys are your tier 1 cavalry choices. These boys are pretty abysmal, but the stats actually aren't too bad. Speed 92, really good for cavalry. Vanguard deployment as well, going to be really good at obviously deploying them around the map, maybe hitting artillery or weaker range units early game, which could be really good. They are very fast, as I say, 92 speed, and they also are shielded. They don't have shields, but sure, yeah, shielded, who am I to say. Moving on to the second choice, because there are 2 different riders variations. We've got riders with crossbows, which is quite nice. Again, they keep up the attribute of being very fast with 92 speed, and they also have the Vanguard deployment. Another good thing outside of the shielded, so they don't have the shielded trait because, I mean, the the predecessors don't have shields, and yeah, never mind. They do also have a fire at will, which is going to be really nice again for an early game skirmish unit to be able to get around the battlefield and skirmish around. One thing I will take into account as we move on to the next unit. The Marienburg do have access to other Empire units, like for example Northern Ironsides and Hochland long rifles and stuff like that. I just took a handful of what they have introduced here, so what you see up there isn't all the units they can get from the Empire, and of course, like for example the Marienburg landship, but that's base game. So do you know what I mean? I've not included everything which is vanilla. I'm just kind of including some and going through obviously what else is included here. So, more elite melee cavalry here. We've got the Sons of Manann. These are basically Poseidon's greatest chosen. The fish helmets, I will be honest, the horses look great. I would love to be riding one of these horses. But if I had to wear the fish helmet, I think I would probably step away. Even when it's on its side. That is abysmal. So, sure. So these, I love the trident. So tier 3 entity count of 60, so quite a chunky unit there of cavalry. They are armoured and shielded and anti-infantry. So these boys are going to be your middle ground cavalry. Kind of a nice all-rounder, getting around and doing whatever you need them to do. Speed of 78 is not too bad, and they do also have magical attacks, which isn't mentioned up there. But yeah, magical attacks. They don't have the anti-infantry trait here, which makes me nervous that they don't actually have the anti-infantry, but they could very well do. It's kind of a running theme sometimes. If it says it up here, it doesn't necessarily mean they actually have it because it's not showing on their stats. I'll be able to show you here. So with these boys, God, these helmets are something to be desired, eh? So these are the Knights of the Cleansing Flame, looking really good. Something from like The Witcher, I would say, which is really cool. So yeah, having a look at them, they've got the Cleansing Flame, so they're resistant to fire, to charge into the enemy, which is really nice. They are armoured and shielded and have anti-large. So this is actually going to be able to showcase what I was just saying about the anti-infantry trait. So as you can see here, they've got the Bones Feast Large icon here. And when you hover over the damage output, it actually says there, Bones Feast Large, 8. So they're doing an additional 8 damage due to that trait. If you hover over there, nothing. It doesn't say anything. So it makes me nervous that they don't actually have a Bones Feast in the tree. Looking at them then, so we do have a physical resistance as well as a fire resistance, which is really nice. 40% fire resistance, really good. But I also have an active ability down here. So this is the Flame of Eradication. So for 25 seconds, this is going to be really good for when you do charges and stuff like that. It's going to give them 30% base weapon damage on top of obviously what they normally do, as well as flaming attacks, which is going to be really good. So yeah, a nice cavalry choice for obviously hunting down larger units. It's a shame because these are more suited for infantry, but I just don't know if that is officially what they're going to be good at. Moving on to these beautiful creatures, I love their pink legs. These are the Order of the Albatross. These are Griffin Riders. Yeah, looking really cool. Again, ditch the fish helmet, boys. Ditch the fish helmet. Looking a little bit more Bretonnian style there, but yeah, nevertheless, looking really cool. These are tier 5. There's 8 of them in the tier 5 roster entity count here. So these are armoured, armour piercing, causes terror, and aquatic, which is kind of an interesting one. They also count as a siege attacker, so don't feel like you need to obviously bring anything if you've got these boys. These boys can be plenty enough to get you into a siege, and of course they can fly. Have a look at stats, yeah, really good stats for what they are. Charge bonus 50, yeah, not too bad. Weapon strength 155, armor piercing good, and then magical attacks as well. So yeah, going to be heavy hitters, really good all round. I'd like to think they might have been a little bit better like anti-large or something like that, but you know, we live and make live. As we come close to rounding out, have I faced in the right way? I think so. As we come into into rounding out this little showcase, I say little showcase, but I feel like we've got through it in a pretty good time here. We've got the Culverins, which is a new artillery choice for the Marienburg faction. I forgot, I was going to say Magellano, but yeah, not them. So yeah, these boys are tier 2 with entity count of 4, so not 1, which is nice. Stats absolutely abysmal, but we don't need to look at any of these stats except from here. Range 350, so pretty good, going to be able to shoot quite nicely across the battlefield. 216 missile strength, but they also have armor piercing, which is good. And apparently they're anti-large, but again, it doesn't say it. It makes me a little bit nervous. Maybe they are, maybe they're not. So it's going to be a shame if they're not. But nevertheless, armor piercing is going to make them obviously be pretty good at clopping some boys in heavily clanded armor. Moving on to these boys. So this is a Regiment Renowned. I thought I'd throw it into this showcase. There are plenty of other Regiment Renowns, but again, we'll kind of cover them as a bit of a roundup at the end of the showcase. The reason I've included this one is because this is in his starting army, so I thought, yeah, we'll throw it in as well. So this is the Merchant Guild baggage train, which looks really funny. Obviously carried by two naughty Marienburgs there, with the Marienburg coat of arms there on the banner at the back, looking really cool. They have a magical aura, which doesn't actually say how. I'm going to say is, yeah, there you go. Okay, so yeah, so this is it. So they encourage units, which is good. Obviously giving a buff to leadership when the lords are maybe not as close and whatnot. This is what they give. So the stats not too great, but then they're a support unit, not really there for a good time. They're there to obviously support the rest, but for a range of 50, which isn't too bad, they give plus 10 leadership, plus 2 melee attack and immune psychology, which is actually really good, and it affects all allies in range, which, yeah, really nice. So yeah, kind of a good unit just to hang back behind the main line and just give that bonus all around to the boys. Yeah, a good support unit. As ever with Regiment Renowns, they basically have the same unit but with a slight buff. So as you can see here, they have slightly more health, slightly more armor, leadership, melee attack, melee defense and charge bonus. So yeah, slightly better all round just for survivability. But on top of that, they also have this ability down here called Jaan's or Jaan's Pay, which you have two uses where you can make one ally, again 2 uses, so one ally, unbreakable for 30 seconds with a cooldown of 70 seconds. So that's going to be really good if you've got something stonky in the front line. Obviously being able to keep them unbreakable is going to be really nice. One last thing are the Elector count kind of units Marienburg has access to. Obviously they don't have access to the Empire State units, but do have access to their own special boys. So here we've got the Defenders of the Capital, which are a great sword unit. Again, I would like to assume because these are state units, you're probably going to be able to have multiple of these units, but these look really nice regardless. So these boys are armoured, armour piercing and anti-infantry. They're only tier 2 with 120 entity count, but these boys are going to be pretty naughty all around. Have a look at the ability down here. They are blessed by, again, I'm not going to try Heinrich. Sure. As long as they are winning in melee combat, which is quite an interesting trait there, they have immune psychology and a bonus for these infantry. So as long as they're winning, we're going to be doing it even better, which is really nice. Moving along, we've got the Knights Mariner, which are swordsmen. I believe there are 2 Knights Mariner. Yeah, let me just switch these around for simplicity purposes. It's hurting my brain. There we go. So yeah, we've got 2 units of Knights Mariner. We've got the swordsmen here, so have a look at them. They're shielded and aquatic, tier 2 with an entity count of 120. Again, nothing too crazy about them, but because they are more like Elector count units, they do have obviously a little bit more of a bonus. So they've got the Blessing of the Whale, which is really cool there. So as long as they are engaged in melee, the longer time they are spent in melee, the more bonus utilise they do, up to plus 10, and the more melee defense they can do, up to plus 10 as well. So these boys are going to be really good at obviously holding the line. Moving on to the other unit of Knights Mariner, we've got the Sword and Pistol. So these boys are a hybrid unit, decent melee combatants and aquatic, which is kind of interesting because these don't have aquatic, right? Oh no, they do. No, ignore me, they do. Yeah, so yeah, stats not looking too bad. Obviously for tier 2, entity count of 120, not too bad. As for abilities, they do also have Firewall Moving, which is going to be nice, as well as the Blessing of the Whale as well. So as they engaged in melee, which is going to be a little bit of a shame because they're not going to be... Are they as good? Okay, so they're stronger, so they're going to do more damage than the swordsman counterpart, but they don't do as much defense. So yeah, more susceptible to die, but they still will get the bonuses as that goes up, as long as they are engaged in melee. So yeah, not too bad. And then moving on finally to the black caps. I would like to say they're kind of black, but they're also a little bit golden as well. I mean, they are golden daggers. So yeah, these boys are anti-infantry and has a charge defense against large foes. They are also armor piercing as well, doesn't say it, but they are. Tier 1 with an entity count of 120, but being an Elector count unit, I'd like to think you have multiple of them, which is lovely. And then there's an additional ability for being an Elector count unit. They have this, Honourable Lamplighters. So as long as their leadership is higher than 50%, they have forest spotting plus 50, which is actually quite good. And then a melee defense of plus 8. So we're going to be able to spot units trying to flank or ambush in the forest. And then also have a little bit more melee defense. So we're going to be able to hold off as well. With that being said, that is the main showcase of what Marienburg has to offer us. Now let's have a look at the other lords and see what they've got to offer and if there's anything a little bit different to them. Spoiler alert, one of them is a completely different race, so let's get into them. Okay, so here we go with this second of the Marienburg factions. We've got Egmond down here, leading the House of Den Iwu. Oh God, I apologise in all its glory. That is not what I meant to say. Anyway, butchering aside, we've got Egmond down here. So Egmond is a bit of a interesting mechanic. It has interesting mechanics. And one thing I will actually quickly say is I've got Immortal Empires Expanded because certain factions actually require. From this DLC actually require this Immortal Empires Expanded to be added. So we'll get into them obviously when we go through them. But if you want a full experience, you need this mod enabled. But it's nice because obviously it adds a couple more lords to the Immortal Empires Expanded. It gives you actually players or lords to players down there. So for Egmond, he plays, like I say, very similar to what the Empire faction. You are an Empire faction, so you still have the same technology tree. Similar to what Jaan boy had, he does have access to the Golden Route. So again, having, I mean, here we can see Bretonnian nobles, so some Bretonnian units. Former artillery officer. Wow, so he starts off with some, but also grants bonuses to any of these units he might be able to pick up. So yeah, he has access to sea routes or trade routes, obviously through the sea. The main thing, which is interesting about this, is he's basically being influenced by Tzeentch, but still is order aligned. Now what I mean by that is if we have a look at hover over here, our affinity is completely fine. They're not averse to us, and these are obviously just normal Cathayans. If we go over here, for example, completely fine. If you hover over the Skaven, minus 100. So we are, and let's have a look about the undead. Yeah, minus 40. So we are still order tide aligned, but we're being heavily influenced by Tzeentch, which probably out of all the Chaos gods, he would be the one to pull strings to make sure that obviously you are still on the same boat as one side, but obviously fighting for the other. Kind of weird. So in terms of campaign mechanics, he has access to the changing of ways, which is going to allow him to obviously do exactly like a Tzeentch faction would do, all these different things to be able to, yeah, do some fuckery and shenanigans. He also has access to a warband upgrade, which allows him to change normal merchant units or normal empire units into Marauders of Tzeentch and then upgrade them like that. One thing I will note is you do need the Warriors of Chaos DLC for this obviously to work, because this uses the Warband upgrade system. Without the Warband upgrade system you wouldn't be able to use it, and so this Lord wouldn't work. But I would like to think most people would have that DLC. It's quite a well bought DLC, quite a good DLC, very good for what it includes. So yeah, here you can see obviously you upgrade in the normal Merchant Guild Sentinels into Marauders of Tzeentch, and then just like they would, you play them up. So it's going to be quite nice to play a bit of an Order Tide faction which is being influenced by Tzeentch, and obviously get them, you know, working alongside Order Tide faction with some Tzeentchian cultists. It's quite a cool-esque faction here. Apart from that, that's it. That's all we've got to show for this faction. He's quite a self-wrote out faction. Nothing really to write home about. But obviously the Tzeentchian influence is quite a good takeaway. Let's have a look at him now in battle and have a look at his little hero he spawns with, which is a Nippon dwarf. Fuck yeah, let's have a look at him. Let's get into the battle. Okay, so here we go. Real quick, I thought I'd just quickly include the fact that the boys we covered in the last place do actually have mounts as well. Excuse him obviously stepping out there. So yeah, the High Priest and Manann here does actually have an altar, which is pretty cool. And then Jaan as well has a Kislevites horse, as it is labelled as. Yep, so really nice to do have mount options. Moving on to the actual meat and bones, this is it. This is it. And I only included the swordsman here so we can have a look at his colours. Have a look at the colours of this faction. So yeah, swordsman, nice looking colour theme, nice looking. nothing to write home about. And this is it. This is anything different for this faction. Now here, he's got a fucking Langmu or whatever it is, but obviously again, heavily corrupted by Tzeentch. I would like to know at what point do you sit there and say, okay boys, what's going on here? This thing looks absolutely beautiful, but scary at the same time. So having a look at his stats, he's a spellcaster, he has barrier, which again Tzeentch, and also a decent melee combatant. Having a look at his stats, yeah, nothing too much to write home about. That speed at 105 means he's going to be able to get around the map insanely quickly. Having a look at his active abilities, he does have Stand Your Ground, which is very normal. He has Tzeentch's Gaze, which is I think Cafane's way of saying Tzeentch, basically like their words for Tzeentch, which affects one unit as long as the entity is on the ground, and stops them from moving, as well as lowering their leadership quite considerably, which is really nice. He also has Orange Simka's Blessing, which gives damage resistance as well as melee damage reflection, which is a really good ability there for 30 seconds. And then also Okamoto's Katana there, which gives him armor piercing, weapon damage, and bonus vs infantry plus 20 for 30 seconds. And that one recharges as long as he's out of melee. So you're not too bad. He does also have some spells, not too many spells, but some nevertheless. He's got like his own little lore here, but it's just obviously Tzeentch lore. So he's got the Freedom of Cian, which is a leadership debuff, but yeah, that's fine. Zinsin's Firestorm, again, just basically Tzeentch's Firestorm, so yeah, not too bad, nice vortex spell there. And then the same there, the Blue Fire of Zinsin, magic missiles, again, very similar, if not the exact same as what Tzeentch has, just obviously hidden behind riddles. And then the hero he spawns with, we've got Rashasawa. He's basically Nippon Dwarf. He looks fucking great. He's a caravan specialist, which means that he's meant to be linked up with a caravan, but he spawns with Egmond, so I'm going to include him here. I don't know. He's armor piercing, anti-infantry, and a melee expert. Looking at his stats, really good. Armor 120, ridiculous. Speed 32. He is a dwarf, so let's not forget. Weapon strength 415 with a bonus vs infantry and armor piercing there. So yeah, really good. In terms of stats, active abilities, he does have some resistances, especially because he's a dwarf, obviously a lot of resistance to magic. He does have a Deadly Onslaught and Foe Seeker, which are generic active abilities most people will get at some point, as well as Nipponese Precision, which imbues his sword with poison, as well as gives him damage resistance. As you can see there, the poison gives an almighty round of debuffs. But all around, a beautiful little short dwarf. But yeah, there you go. That is Egmond, his colour scheme, and his hero he's born with. Let's move on to this one. Okay, so here we go with the third Lord. This Lord obviously is now in the Immortal Empires Expanded area. So unless you have the Immortal Empires Expanded mod included, you cannot play as Camille here. She leads the cult of Manann, which she actually is, again, a really nice lore-inspired faction, which is really cool. So she does have a unique hero bound to her, which is a Sea Magicka. He's not a legendary hero, but is a unique one nevertheless. And she also does have access to a new unit, which are these boys, Manann's Fanatics. So yeah, we actually got something to show off here when we have a look at the units in battle. So what can she do? What is her focus? Her main focus is basically capturing different seaports, and she doesn't have access to units like most people would, or at least they cost a hell of a lot more. If you're over here, yeah, the cult relies on Marienburg reinforcement to unlock a full roster. So yeah, doesn't have access to everything. She can't just go out there and recruit loads of stuff. Like for example, straight after get-go, she's going to get access to burgers. But over time, she will get reinforcements from home, from Marienburg. Now the cool thing about this is by capturing these other places, like for example here, if we go to capture that, it will give us a plus 3% chance of receiving reinforcements over the end turn, or the start of next turn. Each one you take will give you, again, the extra percentage for reinforcements to come. So yeah, kind of holding out with what you've got, fighting against the Norskans here, some Storm Ravens, which look pretty cool to be fair. While you can. You don't actually start with melee, I just use some shenanigans to get melee so I could have a look at what units she has access to. Like for example, she doesn't actually have access to the dwarves at all here, there's normally a building there. Outside of that, she also has another mechanic where she's basically in a hunt for a fucking red demon whale. So all the way over here, if we head all the way over here, and it looks glorious again. Here we go, look at this thing. Look at that. So we've got the Red Chaos Whale, Spirits of Stromfell. It's a rogue army kind of going around doing its own thing. Pretty stonky, and that is another main mission Camille will have to go after here. So if we actually have a look, I'm just trying to find it, there we go. If we actually have a look at this one. So there is a mission here. I could just go all the way out there and go and try and take it down now, or it down now. But here, if you look here, facing a Chaos Whale without revealing its weaknesses through quests will toughen the battle. So basically, you've got to do these quests. So here, killing 1,000 people in battle will unlock an additional quest. The hunt continues, as well as giving me some knowledge as to what these weaknesses are. Some weaknesses are revealed. So yep, really cool mechanic there. You've got to go through a quest line. You could go and fight it early, but obviously it'll be challenging. You've got to go through the quest line and obviously discover what its weaknesses are and what you can use against it, which is going to be really cool. As for what you actually get, you get the Crown of Manann here, which gives really good recruit rank for Sea Magicers and High Priest of Manann. Obviously she has access to the Lord Priest of Manann there. Global recruitment for Cult of Manann units -1, so yeah, really good. Ability Crown of Manann, which gives unbreakable and physical resistance to all units, but only recharges if it's in water, which is interesting. But that unbreakable for all units is really good. And then immune to high seas, reef and storm attrition there as well for all armies faction wide. So yeah, really good. Also get this, the Legend Captain of the Knights Marionette, Aber Walbart will join your ranks. So you get an additional hero there when you actually defeat the Chaos Whale. I will include him in the unit showcase. And with that being said, that's pretty much all we've got to show. So let's jump into the unit showcase. Let's get into it. Okay, so here we go. This is the Cult of Manann little showcase here. Unfortunately, I can't actually show you the faction colours because for whatever reason they don't actually show up in the skirmish battle, which is a bit of a shame. But here, nevertheless, we've got Camille Dauphina. She is a, well, she causes terror, but I'm assuming that's because of the mount she's on. She does also have access to the Altar of Manann, but I thought it'd be cool to put her on whatever Nerf monstrosity this is, like Seagull Griffin, looking really cool. She also has Aquatic and is a hybrid spellcaster and battle priest, which looks, yeah, really cool. Looking at a character model, yeah, looking really nice. Beaky. Stats there, not looking too bad, as well as obviously plenty of abilities and spells out the fucking wazoo. So she has all the abilities of the Priest of Manann would have, as you can see here. I'm not going to go through them all again because they will be the exact same. But on the right here, she does also have Law of the Sea, which is quite different here. So we've got Law of the Sea, Fisherman's Eye, which summons a swarm of August fish, which, yep, sure. Again, a unit I can't actually spawn in, but yeah, nevertheless, a nice summon unit there. Drowned Man's Face, which is a nice debuff to leadership and melee attack. Wave of Destruction, a breath attack, which, yeah, not too bad. Yeah, not too bad. I have good Vortex here, and Animate Water, and really good huge stationary area effect. Also debuffs to their speed. Fountain of Life here gives a bonus to leadership, vigor, and immune to psychology, as well as imbuing allies' weapons with magical attacks. Only affects one unit, but basically makes them a bit of a powerhouse, which is good. And then finally, Water Blast, which is a magic and missile attack there. So yeah, not too bad all round. A nice legendary lord there, obviously leading the Water Boys to glory. Moving on to the generic hero you have access to, you got the Sea Magicka. He does have 2 horse variants, but I thought I'd just throw him on this one just to kind of differentiate between these, because he can also have access to this horse as well. So yeah, this is a Sea Magicka, a generic hero which the Cult of Manann has access to. He is a spellcaster and also has the aquatic trait. Looking at his stats, obviously pretty abysmal, but he is a spellcaster more so than anything else. Having a look at active abilities, he does have a Blast Magic Missile as well as a Power Stone. So obviously a nice recharge there to Winter Magic Reserves. Yeah, not too bad. And obviously a Magic Missile attack there. And then all of the Law of Sea abilities we just had a look at with Camilla here. So yeah, all round, not too bad. A nice support hero there. And then once you defeated the Chaos Whale, this is the Lord you get. Oh, sorry, hero you get. I love the harpoon he spawns with. So he's a melee specialist, but unfortunately doesn't have anything here, but it's fine. We can kind of have a gander at what he would have regardless. So he does have a bonus fuselage and armor piercing. He's actually pretty stonky. Not too fast, but pretty stonky all around. He's unbreakable, which is really nice. He does have the Blessing of the Whale, which again, the longer he spends in melee, the more bonus to large he does, as well as melee defense, which is good because he's already bonus to his large anyway. He has a Mariner's Trident, which gives him plus 50 weapon damage and plus 20 melee attack for 25 seconds, which is really good. He also has Scales of Manann, you can see here, which gives him damage resistance and armor for 25 seconds. So 2 really good active abilities there. And then on top of that, he does have Foe Seeker and Deadly Onslaught as well. So a really good hero there, a really good supporting hero. Tank, heavy hitter, the full shebang. Unbreakable as well, obviously going to mean that he won't be able to run. Won't be able to run, doesn't want to run. Sorry, that sounded weird. And then finally, we've got the Flagellants here, the Manann's Fanatics. These boys, yeah, look absolutely batshit crazy. I love their weapons though. They're these like double hooked harpoony type things, anchor type things. Yeah, look great. So these are tier 2 with an entity count of 120. They've got Frenzy, Unbreakable, which is really nice, and of course Aquatic. They do also have this, which is Rusty Hooks, which affects all enemies in range as long as they are an entity size of small, and gives them just lowest speed and charge speed, which is really nice. The Frenzy obviously giving all those bonuses as long as the leadership is above 50%, but they're unbreakable, so the leadership is always going to be above 50%, so they're always going to have Frenzy. So yeah, really nice. A really nice additional, like I say, early, weak unit, no armor, but they're going to be doing some heavy damage, especially having that constant Frenzy. So yeah, beautiful. Let's move on to the last of the Marienburg factions, but not the last factions we'll be having a look at today. Let's have a look at him. Okay, and so we go with the last of the Marienburg factions. We have got Akrat Fooger here, obviously being a little bit more Dwarven inspired. He's moved all the way over to Int, which again would be another situation where if you don't have the Empires Expanded mod enabled, you will not be able to play as them. He is a very generic faction in terms of how he plays, because he just uses Empire faction mechanics, but is a dwarf. So he brings bonuses to obviously the migrated dwarves we've already had a look at, and does spawn with the Fooger's House Guard, which is nice. It gives us something to have a look at when we actually have a look at him in the skirmish battle. He spawns with another dwarven boy here, Gazunder Wall Rattler, which is really nice. Gets him in there. He spawns at war with some ogres as well, which of course is lovely jubbly. Some allies down here with some high elves, but yeah, all round, I mean, maybe. Waterbeards flashes back in my mind. So the way he works is he basically has been sent away by Jaan, the main boy. He's been brought to the brink of bankruptcy and now has to recuperate his forces all the way over here in Zalmgar. He can send out convoys here, but they are actual land convoys instead of by sea. And the good thing here is you actually send dwarves instead of normal caravan masters. You've got dwarven caravan masters, which is quite actually named here because he's also a dwarf ally. So not only are you sending out dwarves, but you're sending out dwarves with more dwarves. You've also got Gunner Master here, but yeah, of course we'd go with a dwarf with dwarves. In terms of what else this faction has to offer, when those caravans go out, they do have a chance of randomly coming across the Wandering Dwarves, and those Wandering Dwarves can be redirected to Akrat Fooger over here to better bolster his units. So not only does he provide a bonus to the migrated dwarves he's brought with him, he does also have access to normal dwarves over time as your caravans kind of find them and send them back over this way. So you do have access to normal dwarves as well. So basically what this faction is plain dwarves but with empire mechanics. Lovely jubbly, sound as a pound. Let's move over now to the skirmish battle and have a look at what the units look like, because that's it. He's done. He's a dwarven empire boy. Let's have a look. Right, and here we go with our nice little contingency of dwarves here. One thing I actually forgot to mention is you don't have normal recruitment to lords. You have a house elder instead, which is just a dwarven lord's general. But of course we'll show him off. We've got the migrated dwarves here purely for colour purposes. Looking at the colours, they look absolutely fucking gorgeous. I love that blue, I'll be honest. They are, however, incredibly loud, so let's banish them to the Nether Realm. There we go. They're all still very loud. So having a look here, we've got... Jesus Christ, boys. Okay. God. They're so loud. We've got Akrat Fooger himself, so he is armoured and fast for a dwarf, don't you forget, 32 speed. Stats, yeah, looking not too bad. Active abilities here, he of course has Foe Seeker and Rally, which is quite good, a nice leadership buff there. He also has Akrat's Forge, which gives him, a single enemy, less armour and 50% less physical resistance, which is really good. And then 2 uses of the Key of Fooger which is an active ability, which is an explosion, which is really nice. Affects literally everyone in range and imbues them with fire in his armor piercing. So yeah, not too bad. All round, a nice little boy. His weapon is a giant key, which is great. Yeah, again, he's like a merchant lord, so don't expect too much of him. Just kind of, protect him with all you can. Nice little goggles though, I love them. Moving on to the hero he spawns with, Gazunder Wall Rattler. Again, not too much to write home about. He's a smuggler, which means that he has a benefit when in a convoy. But he spawns with Akrat, so, use him wherever you see fit. And he is armoured with 120 armour. He doesn't look armoured, but underneath there is some plastisteel armour. But sure, 120 armor is insane. Stats outside of that look pretty abysmal, to be fair, but yeah, I mean, it's mainly because of speed, because, dwarf. Looking at stats, yeah, he has active ability, Deadly Onslaught, Foe Seeker, resistances, encourage, hold the line. Yeah, just a nice all-round dwarf. Obviously, early game, really lovely jubbly. Moving on to your generic lord then, and again, I love this shield. Look at that shield, look at that colour. That is such a nice colour. So this is your House Elder. So this is your generic lord you can have as Akrat. He is Axe Infantry, armoured and shielded, melee expert, and charged against all. Stats looking a lot better, again minus the speed. But yeah, all round not too bad. Nothing to write home about with abilities or anything like that, with only having Foe Seeker and Stand Your Ground. And then finally, very similar, we've got the Dwarf Merchant Lord, which is the exact same. They are carbon copy, exact same. The stats do not change. But these are going to be your boys who are actually leading the convoys and stuff like that. But I thought I'd include them nevertheless. Now, one unit he does spawn with, again, Regiment Renowns. I will show them off in their glory. Look at these. Looking absolutely beautiful. I'll step away from them while they continue to scream and shout though. So these count as Greatsword Infantry, which, yeah, fine. These are Fooger's House Guard. He spawns with them, so I thought, like I say, I would include him. Fast for a dwarf, but doesn't actually look it at 26. Armour though, 115, absolutely out of the wazoo. And armour piercing and anti-infantry as well, actually, there. Spell resistance and hiding forest is the only active abilities they've got. But all around, yeah, a nice, bearing in mind he spawns with them, a nice early House Guard elite unit to obviously spawn with. So with that being said, that's pretty much the end of the Marienburg showcase. There are some more Regiment Renowns I will quickly show you, as well as some heroes we didn't get to show. I'm not going to go through all of them because we still have one more faction to show you, which isn't a Marienburg faction. So let's get into them, and then I'll kind of do like a round off of everything else included, just quickly skimming through what else there is. Let's have a look at them. Okay, and so here we go, heading into the final faction we've actually got to show you, and the faction I was kind of hiding away from. I will actually quickly say, Jaan has actually spawned with an additional legendary hero down here, Sword of Solkan. I'll just throw him into the rounding out at the very end. So here we've got Mundvard the Cruel, which is actually a vampire count faction. But he's here to kind of usurp Marienburg and claim Marienburg for himself. He just started a war with the orcs, but his main focus is of course going to be taking over Marienburg. So outside of obviously being vampire counts and having access to vampire counts units, because that is exactly what he does have access to, he does have access to certain Marienburg units, like for example the Burger units down here, the Merchant Guild Sentinels there, and for example the Marienburg Privateers. There's a couple here and there he does have access to, so yeah, not too bad all around, having a little bit of reinforcements from some mortar units. He does spawn with a legendary hero, Alicia von Unterwald, so yeah, really cool, nice little spellcaster there. Throw her in there. On top of that, he also spawns with, uses slaves. So when you take over or win battles, you get slaves. And what you can actually use those slaves for is selling them and gaining different bonuses when a slave ring pops up. So you'll get like a random event where you basically get to sell slaves and get bonuses depending on how many slaves you sell and what option you pick, which is, yeah, a really cool little mechanic there, really cool thing. And what else he can do is when taking over settlements, he can establish, instead of taking over them, he can establish crime syndicates. So for example, here in Marienburg itself, we've got an underground syndicate, which gives us more money. And as long as we have higher than 100 slaves, we get even more money, but also a slave reduction of -50 per turn. And in Gorsel over here, we've got something similar. So there you can see we've got income generated 200. We've got a research rate and income from trade tariffs, because of course we're still Marienburg themed, right? We want to be trading obviously as much as we can. And then when higher than 100 slaves, we get a bonus 10 research rate there as well, which is really cool. Looking at campaign mechanics then, so again, he's a vampire count, so he will have a very vampire count-esque research tree. Again, bloodlines, because he's a vampire count, he's of course going to have bloodlines, but he also does have access to military convoys. So as you can see here, instead of the dwarves or the merchant lords from Marienburg, he has master slave traders, which will go off and do their own things. So we've got a human connoisseur here, which spawns with some skeletons, some Vargheists, a Vargulf, right? And some I don't even know what that is. Some corpse cart, maybe? I don't know. Let's get him. What is it? Mortis engine. Boom. Yeah, all round, not too bad. And you can send them off and go and do what you want by trading slaves. You send them off, get some money, and probably some kind of nice reward when you actually get there. So yeah, a nice addition to the mod. Obviously Marienburg themed, but not actually Marienburg. The faction he leads, by the way, is called the Shadows of the Wasteland. So yeah, his whole goal is eventually just kind of getting back here and claiming back Marienburg. He also has a quest here to go at war with Reichland and also form a military alliance or defensive alliance with Sylvania. Long lost relatives. But yeah, outside of that, a nice start position as well. A little bit unique. Quite difficult, obviously, being in the middle of everyone here. But yeah, really cool. Let's have a look at what units he has to offer. There's not too many, but, you know, we'll have a look at him himself. Let's have a look at him in battle. That was a mouthful. Jesus Christ. Let's go. Okay, and so here we go with the last of the showcases here. A little bit different, obviously, from what we've seen so far. And we'll quickly show you the colour scheme of the naughty vampire boy himself. A nice, like, pale white and purple, which is actually really nice looking, to be fair. Outside of that, he's not actually really introducing any other units. He's more actually utilising Marienburg units on top of the normal vampire count roster. Now, having a look at Mundvard the Cruel himself, he does have a unique Terrorgeist mount, which looks absolutely lovely jubbly. Have a look at his stats then. He's a spellcaster, armoured, armour piercing, and causes terror. God, that is loud. He's got some spells down here, so he's got some Lore Shadows and Lore and Vampires. As you can see here, there's a bit of a mix. Mainly Pit of Shades and the Penendulum is going to be great. They're really good spells. Does he have... He doesn't have the... Oh my god. The Winds of Death or whatever it is. Vampires normally have, but he's got some good ones. Raised Dead, not too bad. Invocation, good. Yeah, that's fine. Have a look at stats then. It's not too bad. His armor piercing and his weapon strength. And he does have some active abilities down here. So he's got Liberation of Souls, which for 15 seconds give him damage resistance and melee defense, which is fine. He's also got Shadow Walk, which gives him Stalk for 30 seconds, as well as spell resistance and physical resistance, plus 20%. That's really good. He's also got Sword of Wussaran, which summons twice a unit of Cain Wraiths. I don't know why that was such a mouthful for me to say, but yeah, sure. So, yeah, good. And of course, because he's only a Terrorgeist, he has Death Shriek. 3 uses of Death Shriek, which is a magic missile attack coming out of his mouth. Which, yeah, all round, not too bad. Again, compared to what we've seen so far with Marienburg, a nice addition. Vampire count addition there as well, if you're into the undead boys. Moving on to Alicia von Unterwald here. Sure, she is obviously a nice little supplement to Mundvard himself. So she is a spellcaster, she is armoured, which she doesn't Alright, now yeah, she does look armoured. Decent melee combatant and very fast. 105 speed is very fast indeed. Stats, yeah, looking pretty good. 90 armour, yeah. Alright, yeah, not too bad. She does have some active abilities. She's got the Ashen Rose here, which is direct damage, a bit like Spirit Leech, 35 to 70, but can only be used on a Lord or Hero. She has 3 uses of that. And she also has a Von Unterwald's Ring, which gives damage reflection or melee damage reflection, as well as physical resistance plus 50% for 30 seconds on a cooldown of 70 seconds. So that's continuously can be reused every 70 seconds, whereas that only has 3 uses. But all around, not too bad. On top of that, she is also a spellcaster, undead as well, so whoopsie, causes fear. She's also a spellcaster, so she does have some spells, but actually a little bit different than what Mundvard has here. So having a look down here, she's got quite a lot of lore of shadow spells. In fact, I think they are all Lord of Shadow spells, yeah. So she's a Lore of Shadow main spellcaster, which is really good. Again, mainly having Pit of Shades and Penendulum there is going to be fantastic. And finally, but not least, the last boy, which is just your convoy boy here. We've got the Master Slave Trader. Nothing really to write home about. His voice doesn't really fit his face, but it's fine, it's fine. Stats, alright, yeah, he's anti-infantry, but doesn't actually have the anti-infantry trait, so Lord only knows if he is actually anti-infantry. Model looks absolutely fine, and he does have some fire weakness, sure. Some spells... Jesus Christ, some spells down here. So yeah, he's also a spellcaster. Again, despite not saying so up here, he's a spellcaster. Primarily focusing around the lore of vampires. Yeah, so he does have the Winds of Death. Yeah, there you go. So he actually does have the Winds of Death. Yep. But that's not to say that you cannot just recruit your normal vampires and stuff like that. This is all this faction has to offer in terms of what it adds new from this mod pack. With that being said, let's have a quick little outro here as we scan over the Regiment Renowned and what other legendary heroes and stuff like that this mod has to offer. Let's just quickly scan through them. We're not going to spend too much time looking at them. We're literally just going to go name by name and show off everything else we have missed thus far. Let's have a look. So here we go, as we round out Marienburg's roster, we've got one additional legendary lord here, multiple legendary heroes, and then all the Regiment Renowned which didn't start in a starting army. So let's quickly just fly through these. I'll allow you to have a look at the stats. I'm not going to go through everything because there is absolutely boatloads of them. Starting off with Simon here, I will quickly read off that he's got battle praise and is a decent melee combatant. Stats not looking too bad. Nice weapon strength there, to be fair. Definitely a better heavy hitter than melee defense. We've got the Sword of Solken. This is what we saw Jaan spawn with. We're not playing as him. This boy looks absolutely insane. Plenty of active abilities down here, and he's armor piercing and a duelist, so not too bad. We've got Pieter de Griet. He's a smuggler and anti-infantry. If he's got a smuggler trait, he means that he's better off being assigned with a convoy. So yeah, better off being assigned with a convoy. Stats not looking too bad. Again, better attacker than defender with plenty of active abilities. We've got Lisette Lier, yeah. Smuggler, again, better off with a convoy, armor piercing and a duelist. Stats, yeah, not looking too bad with some active abilities there. Good. This boy looks cool. Is it an elf? Oh, it's an elf. Cool. So we've got Captain David Mykos. Smuggler, so again, better off with a convoy. Armor piercing, stats, again, alright, really good in melee attack, to be fair, over melee defense. Weapon strength not too bad, and again, a couple of active abilities as well. Really cool looking character model there. Here we've got some stunties. So we've got a Paldi Hammerbearer. Says Caravan Specialist, but doesn't actually have the Smuggler trait. Anti-large and melee expert, as you can see here. Armor piercing as well, and the weapon strength. Plenty of armor ability, active abilities, as well. Looks kind of funky looking with the little cloak above his head. Is it cowl? Is it called actually? I don't know. Massive fucking hammer though, so yeah, cool nevertheless. Here we've got Olgavir Expatriate. Patriati? Sure. Melee expert and special range weapon. Again, says Caravan Specialist, but does not have a Smuggler trait, so I'll allow you to use him however you wish. All these heroes, by the way, are unlocked under certain conditions. They could be locked to certain factions, like, for example, the Dwarves might only be for the Dwarven Lord, but I don't think so. I think they're just under certain unlocked conditions. So yeah, melee expert, special range weapon. Range weapon is actually pretty good with flame axe, flammable, and armor piercing there as well. A couple of active abilities to boot. And finally, we've got Crispian Van Hagen here. He's good. It just says good. He's good. He's sure. And smuggler, so sure, good. What does that even mean? I'm actually curious. He's just good. He's good. He's good. Moving on to Regiments of Renown then, we have got some golden pinions. They are halberdiers. Again, I will let you have a look at them. Not looking too bad with the bonus slash and armor piercing there. Moving on, we've got, these boys look pretty cool, Van Klump's Buccaneers. These are swordmen, shielded, armoured and aquatic, with Murderers of Marienburg. I don't even want to know. Melee defense and melee attack per kills. Sure, that's pretty horrifying. Oh, a nice standard bearer here in the middle. Manann's Blades, again swordsman, very similar to the ones we've just seen. Shielded, anti-infantry, magical aura and aquatic. Immune psychology and a sea bry standard. All allies in range, if they have less than 50% hit points, cause fear and have more leadership and melee attack, which, yeah, cool. Like the shield as well, nice golden shields. Moving on here, these boys look cool. We've got the High Temple Guard. These are insane looking. Look at them. They look beautiful. These are shielded, anti-infantry, charged defense against large foes and aquatic. Yeah, pretty much exactly that. Manann's Anchor, unbreakable, cannot move. They can use it 3 times. And it just makes them basically powerhouses. It's just holding the line. That's their sole purpose. It's just hold the line. So yeah, nice. Here we've got Shielders, Toll Collectors. Shielders? Sliders? Yeah. Toll Collectors. Yeah, looking really nice with the fish guns again. Sure. Anti-large Vanguard deployment, charge defense against large foes and aquatic. Again, not looking too bad. Riverboats. If they have more than 50% health, they have bonus speed. Sure. Sure. The Red Talons, handgunners, armor piercing missiles, and decent melee combatants. Yeah, all around not too bad. Riker's Chains is their active hex ability they've got there, which reduces speed. That's actually going to be really good at kind of putting that on an enemy and then fucking blasting him. Obviously making him less fast, less speedy. Moving on to Cavalry Regiment round, we've got, oh god, the Tuling's Escort, Empire Knights with great swords, looking actually quite nice. Heavily armoured, but don't really look it. I guess they kind of do. They kind of do. Armoured, armour piercing, and anti-infantry. Immune psychology, and have a blessed by Hendrik, which, as long as they are winning, very similar to the normal great swords, they have immune psychology and bonus with infantry. And then cavalry, not cavalry, artillery options. We've got Strompert's Ordnance, which are mortars. These have armor-piercing missiles and also count as anti-infantry. Outside of that, they don't actually have any like additional abilities or anything like that. Just these little tidbits, which nice, but they don't show up here, so I don't know if they actually do. Okay, we do have AP a little bit, 50 there, but it doesn't say the bonus for infantry, so ugh. And then these abominations. Ziggy Prowl's Paksan? Great cannons. These are monsters. Armor piercing, anti-large, and good range. Again, good range for 150. Yeah, they're right there. Armor piercing, yes, it does actually show up. But no anti-large, which is a shame. Stats apart from that, absolutely abysmal. But yeah, really cool looking. But there we go, that is the end. Another chunky one as we show off all this Marienburg mod has to give us. Plenty of Marienburg units, plenty of Marienburg factions, and hell, even a Vampire Counts faction to throw in there just for shits and gigs. Obviously, he does make sense. He is themed with this mod. But yeah, cool nevertheless. If you have enjoyed this mod, the mod as ever is in the description below. Please do go check it out. Check it out for yourself. Definitely lots of different playstyles here and lots of different factions, all very different. Yeah, really cool. If you have enjoyed the video, please do leave me a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and I hope you all have a good rest of your day, and hopefully catch you in the next one. Bye.